Dear listeners, welcome to our new episode on European integration and European law. My name is Michal Říha. I'm the host of podcast Evropy, and I'm very happy that with us is Professor Olivier Descamps, who is from Paris 2, so Panthéon-Assas University, legal historian, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Hello, Olivier.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you very much for your invitation. It's a pleasure.
We will continue on the stories about the European integration and its origins, and one of the most important persons who is not regarded as a founding father for good reasons is President Charles de Gaulle. So we are getting back to the second half of 50s, and I would like to ask you, because today we are discussing a lot of issues and we are hearing a lot of issues about the French Fifth Republic, and we are going to the roots of this governmental system. So I would like to ask you, what was the situation in the second half of 50s and how that happened that Charles de Gaulle became a president of the new formed Fifth Republic?
So the situation in France in the second part of the 50s was very difficult because there were different problems. The first problem it was a political crisis. As a matter of fact, after the Second World War, there was a new republic, the Fourth Republic, with not very good organization between different powers. And during the 50s, for instance, we have the average of 6 months of lasting for each government. 6 months, it's a very short time. It's a real difficult problem for the institutional organization and the life of France. At the same time, the economic situation was very, very difficult. After the Second World War, the poverty in France was at a very high level. Maybe you remember the situation during the um, very harsh winter 1954 with the presence of people in the street and so many people in streets. That's the reason why the critical situation of France on the political way and the economic way was very, very difficult. Um, Regarding the social situation, we have very two main parts: rich people and poor people. It was very difficult to conceive the birth of intermediate situation. That is to say, we have to wait the 60s for the change of the situation with a new class in the French society. Regarding the solution for the political crisis, um, the only one possible solution was to ask for the comeback of General de Gaulle. As a matter of fact, we must remember that the fact he was at the real great leader at the end of the Second World War. He tried to manage the French government, but he knew a real difficult situation with a very huge, important party, the Communist Party. And that's the reason why he decided to leave the government, to leave the political life. And we call this time for the General de Gaulle within 1946 to 1958, the time of desert for the General de Gaulle. But it was at a time when in which he was in silence, silent. He gave some information regarding the evolution of the politics in France and the construction of European community, because as you know, with the first success of the European integration, that is to say, the European community of steel and coal, a real success, it was very, very critical to this first European community. He said this is a merger of coal and steel with a supranational point of view. And as you know, de Gaulle defended the French authority. It was against the federalism. He developed the fact that each state has to defend it, has to defend their own sovereignty, political sovereignty in general. So in 1958, the political crisis was very, very acute. So that's the reason why political change intervened with the comeback of the French president, of General de Gaulle. And he decided, when he came to power, to change the constitution. And that's the reason why he organized a specific commission with Michel Debré and different constitutionalists in order to prepare new constitution, the fifth constitution of the Fifth Republic, um, um, with the change of power and relationship between powers. As a matter of fact, during the Fourth Republic, the parliamentarism was very high, and the executive power was under the control of parliament. And in order to change the situation, he decided to impose a real strong executive power and to reduce the power of the parliament in order to give a real new direction for the government, the French government, and the possibility for France to avoid a new crisis and to avoid this very numerous governments, the very long list of governments that we knew during the Fourth Republic. So that's the reason why the new constitution got successfully. In 1962, he was elected the president of France, and it was a real success. And it was the general French situation for the new relationship between European construction and France. But we know that there is the international context with the appeasement of relationship between two blocks, western part and eastern part of the world, after the death of Stalin in 1953. And it was a new area, a new time of relationship between um, West and East.
which was well known as a Ostpolitik. Uh,
Yes, exactly.
and
Um,
so de Gaulle's position was to become the third power between the US and the Soviet Union.
Honestly, de Gaulle didn't want to be under the power of the United States. Okay, de Gaulle defended the French authority with a universal vocation of France, which may be very, very um, specific point of view. As you know, he said one time, I have a certain idea of France, okay, with a universal vocation. So he wanted to develop a specific position without to be under the control of the Soviet Republic and under the control of USA, really. So he defended the very conception of European general relationship with the fact to respect each sovereignty of European state, but he considered the possibility to conceive, for instance, European force together in order to be a third pillar in the world. USA, USSR, and Europe, but without to be without to be dissolved in supranationality, European supranationality, with the transfer of sovereignty on a vital point for the French president. Defense, for instance, nuclear power, economic power, financial power, and agricultural power.
One of the important decisions of de Gaulle in regarding the European integration was his veto of the United Kingdom joining the European integration. Can you explain us a little more about what was the relationship between the UK and the EEC, and why at the end de Gaulle refused to let Britons in?
Yes, it's a very, very important point. As you know, it's very amazing. It's very interesting and very amazing. At the end of the Second World War, Winston Churchill defended the construction of United States of Europe. He defended in different speeches with the fact to give importance of the United States of Europe, but without the integration of the British Empire for different reasons. The first reason, it was the fact that the dominions were very heavy in the construction of the British Empire, and it could be very difficult to harmonize in general in the world the relationship between British Empire and European community. The second point, for instance, regarding the coal and steel, at the end of the 40s and the beginning of the 50s, the production of coal and steel in England was the higher rate in Europe. That's the reason why it was not possible to accept to take part of this new European community. That's the reason why the Churchill and then his successors decided to refuse to join the European community. And at the same time, during the second part of the 50s, England and British Empire tried to compete the construction of the European construction. And as you know, they organized a counter project with a specific organization, and this organization was created in 1960 in the Stockholm Treaty, the Treaty of Stockholm, with different countries in order to be in competition with the EEC. That's the reason why General de Gaulle, when the British government considered the failure of his project, the failure of the EFTA, the British government decided to present his candidacy to the EEC. That's the reason why both times the General de Gaulle decided to refuse, because he said, you at the beginning of the 50s, during the 50s, and you decided to refuse your integration in the European project, and now you are to ask for your integration. It's not possible to conceive, and that's the reason why de Gaulle refused both times. In 1962 and 1965, the candidacy of English government to the EEC in order to include. And it was a real problem because maybe you know the very famous foreign minister of the Netherlands, Joseph Luns, was very, very interesting in the integration of the British Highlands in the EEC. It was a real point of opposition between de Gaulle and some members of the European community, some members of the six, as you know, and it was very, very, very difficult. And this opposition was a real point when de Gaulle proposed a new conception of European integration, not a real European integration, a European intergovernmental government.
So-called Fouchet's plan.
Fouchet plans, exactly. Both both plan very, very important. The first one proposed in October 1961 with some proposal, for instance, a regular meeting of the European heads of state and government. Another point, very important because it's the question of the decision lawmaking decision. That is to say, deliberations would be unanimous. It's very, very important for the goal. European cooperation.
Because I think it's need to be mentioned here that the EC decided to decide by majority in most of its decisions, and you mentioned meetings, regular meetings of heads of states, and we today know European Council, but European Council was created much later. So,
Yes.
so this body is one of few which were missing in original construction of EC treaties.
That's true. That's the reason why, you know, maybe you remember the very famous first or second president of the European Parliament, because the first it was Louis Weiss, but the second one it was Simone Veil. And Simone Veil, at the end of his life, she always defended the European project, always. And at the end of his life, Simone Veil said, General de Gaulle had good reason to propose intergovernmental governance of European institutions, and it was right to criticize the federalism and the European integration as conceived in 1957. So it's very, very important, and as you know, as you said, it's very, maybe the legacy of de Gaulle with the creation of this new institution very later after the first Fouchet plan. So what we said, it's the fact that the point of view for de Gaulle, it's intergovernmental commission based in Paris, preparing the work of the council, and because he wanted that each government should have the possibility to give the sense of decision. And that's the reason why the position of de Gaulle regarding, and Fouchet plan, regarding the position of the parliament was very criticized, because he considered the parliament, European Parliament, just as a consultative institution, not decisional institution. So it's very, very important to conceive, and it was in at stake. It was a real point of discussion between between the six. And Joseph Lens, I evoke Joseph Lens because Joseph Lens really rejected the Fouchet plan for different reasons regarding the organization of the intergovernmental power, but above all, he said there was a risk of a Franco-German hegemony over Western Europe. And for small countries, and if, especially for Benelux countries, it was not possible to conceive. And moreover, as I said, Joseph Florence wanted to include England and the British Islands in the European community, and de Gaulle was very, very against this idea. And just um, a memory regarding the past. We are maybe you remember at the beginning of the Second World War, de Gaulle proposed Franco-British um, action against Germany, now the Nazi. It was very, very amazing to see that de Gaulle changed his mind regarding the relationship with England. In fact, as you know, de Gaulle did not accept the fact not to be present at the Yalta conference. It was a very difficult situation for de Gaulle to accept this position because it was very important. And that's the reason why he kept a real problem of relationship with England till the end of his life in 1970, really.
I think his relation with UK is really amazing, especially for the reason that the UK later, for very long time, was actually following the Gaulle's understanding of European integration and its
Yes.
refusal. So he actually vetoed twice its potential ally in European negotiations.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. I think if de Gaulle was alive during the Brexit, I think he gave applause to this movement, and maybe he would have proposed Frexit, maybe. Really, that's true. But regarding the Fouché plan, so this conception refused, rejected by Lens and other members of the EEC, um, has led um, the goal to propose a second version of the Fouché plan in January 1962, with um, the fact to really to reinforce the independence of each state with the disappearance of traces of federalism, with the possibility to erase the reference to the Atlantic Alliance, with some consequences because the Americans and other people in Europe, maybe Belgians and Federalists, was very frightened by this position, by this proposal to refuse and to erase the reference to the Atlantic Alliance. It was a real huge problem for, and um, in fact, no one accepted these changes because and the Dutch continued to reject the Fouché plan, the second Fouché plan. So France was very alone against five other members of the EAC, and the, the, the plan finally failed on 17 April 1962. So and it's very interesting because this failure of the Fouché plans led the goal to change its position in the organization of the relationship of France with other European members. For instance, it tried to reinforce the relationship of France and Germany because he had a very good relationship with Konrad Adenauer. There is a common aspect, very important, um, shared by different founders of the European community. This is the Catholicism. There is a Christian aspect with the search for peace, the opening of the opening mind opening to the other, but without to lose the independence of each state. So there is some point, and that's the reason why um, the goal tried to reinforce the relationship between France and Germany, and he was in conflict, really in conflict with Jean Monnet, because Jean Monnet, as you know, was at the head of the Action Committee for United States of Europe, and Jean Monnet accepted the application of British government and the cooperation with the United States. You remember maybe that Jean Monnet, during the inter-war within 1919 and 1914, Jean Monnet had a good relationship with the Americans. He went to America and developed some specific relationship with Americans, and
He was
he
even advisor to President Eisenhower.
Exactly, Eisenhower, and he was very, very well known by President Roosevelt. So it was a very good connection with between Germany and America, and it was very difficult for really for de Gaulle to accept. For de Gaulle, it was a provocation um, to back the England application, the English application for membership and the cooperation with the United States. It was unconceivable for the goal. So it was very, very, very difficult. One man tried to convince de Gaulle to accept some evolution. It was SPAC, the Belgian, because SPAC to try to contact de Gaulle, because SPAC accepted part of the Fouché plan, but in exchange, SPAC wanted to increase the power of the European Commission. And for de Gaulle, it was impossible to accept this possibility give more to give more power to the European Commission, and especially to give more power to Walter Hallstein, because Walter Hallstein was very, very dogmatic regarding the evolution of the European integration. It was a real honest and very uh, great supporter of federalism and general integration with transfer of sovereignty on different fields. So it was very difficult for de Gaulle to accept this possibility.
I will just remind our listeners that Professor Hallstein was former German Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was
Exactly.
president of EEC, and there is even a funny story that when he was in the US, he actually, I think he described being a president of European Commission as something as being a president of Europe.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I can imagine
Yes.
that Charles de Gaulle was very angry about it, even
Very
just the
angry.
statement.
Impossible to conceive, and it was very, 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 very difficult to accept this. But as you know, regarding this um, um, this opposition between de Gaulle and Europe, because we said during the 60s, Europe was under the control of de Gaulle. We are going to speak about the empty chair crisis, but that's true. Um, Obviously, the common market worked alone on a economic point, but regarding the political point of view, the position of de Gaulle was very, very a real break. of the evolution of the European construction. And maybe you remember that um, in 1965, Walter Hallstein formulated some proposals to strengthen the powers of the Commission. And in the purpose, this point, because we have to consider that on the 1st January 1966, a new transition to the third stage of the common market should intervene. So Walter Hallstein wanted to prepare the new phases of the common market, and that's the reason why he proposed to some new aspect regarding the reinforcement of the European Commission. And for instance, we said a few minutes ago that de Gaulle defended the unanimity for the lawmaking decision, and Hallstein advocated for a qualified majority, voting in the Council of Ministers, and
Which was actually stipulated for the third phase of the European integration in EEC treaty. So
yes,
it was basically automatic. So for the
yes,
goal to change it, he needed to agree with all the member states to amend the EEC treaty and eradicate this majority voting system.
yes.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, there was also a problem with the budget powers.
Exactly, exactly. There is a question of the financing of the common agricultural policy. Because I didn't say, but I would like to say now that when de Gaulle came to the power in 1958, everybody frightened was frightened by the position of de Gaulle during the 50s against different European community was each time he criticized. So that's the reason why when he came to the to power, everybody waited for his position. And de Gaulle said, um, I accepted the EUC community because there is a change of the economic situation of France with the birth of economic stability after a devaluation of the currency in 1959. So this is a good condition to accept to continue to go on and to stay in the EEC. Another reason was the fact that de Gaulle wanted to defend the peasant and to defend the agricultural policy of French peasants. That's the reason why he said, okay, we are going to stay, but in exchange, I want I want a common agricultural policy. And that's the reason why a new phases uh, began with this point of view, and that's true. The common agricultural policy was enacted within 1959 and 1962. So it was a very important aspect of the acceptance of the EC for by de Gaulle, and that's the reason why it was very important to keep in mind this point, because Einstein, Walter Einstein, when he proposed in 1965 to strengthen the powers of the Commission, Einstein had gambled that de Gaulle would accept further transfer of sovereignty in exchange for a 5-year agricultural financial regulation. That is to say, he said de Gaulle wanted to save the position of the French peasant and the French agriculture. Okay, so I think this is a gambler. Einstein was a gambler. Uh, I think de Gaulle normally should accept my proposal in exchange of this CAP. financial regulation. And in fact, de Gaulle refused. De Gaulle refused this position, and that's the reason why um, we arrived to the crisis, as a matter of fact.
So on the one position, one side, there was Hallstein, who was trying to first create European budget because the EEC was funded contrary to European coal and steel community, which had their own resources from customs between the member states.
Yes,
By the EEC had funding only from the member states, so if the member states refused to pay its
yes.
share, they ran out of coffers.
Mm.
And also, CAP, Common Agricultural Policy, was extremely expensive because basically it stimulated overproduction. So it was very it gave an advantage to French farmers
Mm.
who didn't need to had some they can produce surplus without the need to search for new markets because the European Commission basically bought it.
Mm.
And for buying the not only French agricultural products, European Commission needs some money which would be independent from the member state because I can imagine that the Dutch
The-
would not be very happy paying for French wine
exactly.
grapes.
Exactly, exactly. That's true. And regarding this proposal of Einstein, de Gaulle decided to clarify the debate really because it was a crucial moment on 30 June 1965. During the French presidency of the Council, and that in fact it's very simple. The French delegation rejected any limitation of the power of governments. There is a we can say the French government under the control of the French presidency and the French president. Uh, the goal um, kept the same position, the defense of France, the defense of European interests, but in an intergovernmental point of view. So we can say it is very um, just regarding his position. There is no change with adaptation. It's very, very clear position, and that's the reason why regarding this position and this moment of change of position between Einstein and de Gaulle, the French demanded an agreement on the financing of the CAP, while the Dutch, Germans, and Italians wanted to link the problems together. All the question regarding the,
Basically making some package which would be
yes,
voted by one vote, so you
yes,
cannot decide what you want and what you don't. No, like
exactly,
that.
exactly. And uh, the Commission maintained its proposal. It's a real struggle between two positions and without negotiation, without the fact to accept to let some proposal and try to make a part of the work of um, the way for the way for an agreement. So that's the reason why maybe you know Maurice Couve de Morville, the French president of the Council, acknowledged the disagreement on 30 June, and he suspended the meeting on the grounds that the financial regulation had not been adopted. So
Which was contrary to customs because it was usual that the president of the rotating presidency would stop the clock in the midnight. So the
yes, that's
midnight
yeah,
could
that's
lead
it.
for a
Yes,
few hours, and
yes,
the compromise might be
yes.
agreed during I don't know at 4, but it will be counted as a decided few hours before.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yes, it's a um, very amazing timing. That's it. and that's the reason the beginning of the empty share, because as you know, the French uh, government decided to withdraw from the Brussels organization for 6 months. So it's a very famous crisis of the empty share crisis, and it's very interesting because there is a link between European situation and French situation. At this moment, Jean Monnet decided to intervene in the French uh, presidential election. In 1965, there were different candidates, very famous, for instance, future French President François Mitterrand against de Gaulle, and less known Jean Le Canuet, a member of the centrist power, very famous um, party, and Monet decided to back Le Canuet against de Gaulle, to struggle inside the French political situation in order to show his disapproval of the situation, and so it was very interesting to see. But it didn't change the sense of the election. The President de Gaulle was re-elected, and this
But,
crisis.
but I thought that the President de Gaulle was quite upset because he thought he will be elected in the first round, while
Yes, yes. It's a question. Yes, it's a question of you know the personality of de Gaulle. He wanted to be elected as a general or as a Soviet marshal, a Soviet president. So with 80, 90%, that's true. He was very angry of
and
the
actually the French farmers were quite scared because of there was no agreement on CAP, so
mm,
they actually I'm not sure whether they supported de Gaulle because I thought that de Gaulle, who was conservative, I guess, was heavily dependent on their votes.
yes, yeah, that's true. It was a real, a very strange or amazing opposition between the defense of agriculture by de Gaulle, and then with this change of position regarding um, the independence of France, and with the risk for farmers to be in a very severe situation, because they were very interesting in the CAP for the financial back of the European community. So that's true. That's one of the reason why the vote of farmers was in favor of François Mitterrand and Le Canuet. But uh, you know, the charism of de Gaulle, it was the leader during the Second World War. It was the defender of France against all the French government in Vichy, and Hitler and the Nazi power. So the charism of de Gaulle was very important at this moment, and I think it's the reason why he kept the power. When we saw when we want to give the nature of his political position, I'm not sure he was conservative completely, because he accepted some evolution. That's true. He was Catholic, and he respected the political of the church regarding the moral, and but he accepted some evolution of the society, but he was very um, cautious regarding the evolution of the consumption, the society of consumption, because of this society began to have a very huge importance, because within 1959 and 1970, maybe you remember the progression of the European um, production was very, very important, and the wages um, knew a very huge evolution by 70%. 70%. So it was a success, and
Something we would really like to see today.
yes, yes, that's true, and that's the reason why um, um, this success was interesting for everybody, and maybe that's the reason why de Gaulle kept the position with cautious uh, prudence regarding the development of European institution, but it was not against the European community in general. Um, he had a specific point of view, a very personal conception, and he tried to conform and to form the European community according to his conception. That's true. So the compromise of Luxembourg in January 1966 was very crucial for the future of Europe. As a matter of fact, um, um, the compromise put an end to the institutional crisis by asserting the need for unanimous decision making on important votes. So this is um, the main point. The French obtained that when a question concerns a vital interest, the members of the council must find a compromise until this solution reach unanimous agreement. Really, so it's the
So,
um,
so
mm,
basically, de Gaulle exchanged the end of empty chair crisis for the veto for every member.
yeah.
Was it somehow reflected in the treaties? Because as we mentioned before, in
Yeah.
the treaty there was still majority principle, while there is a what is that? Political decision, legal decision. What's the form of this compromise?
The compromise is it's for the political decision because for all the other aspect, I think the first step this is the political decision, and it was very crucial to get this unanimity, and it was a very good rule for the goal because it was a possibility to refuse um, some new transfer of sovereignty and to refuse some um, aspect regarding, for some defense or agriculture. Um, Another aspect we didn't talk very important for you for the goal. It was the fact that the European community was based on a common culture. And he was very interesting in the fact to develop this common culture. He spoke about the Europe from the Atlantic to Ural mountains. So it was a general conception regarding the importance of European culture based on different common points of Catholicism, the search for peace, and the common literature. You remember in the past, for instance, uh, in USSR, in Russia Empire, in Russian Empire, um, all the people knew French language. Um, for instance, Madame Anska wrote a letter to the famous French writer Honoré de Balzac in French, into French language. So there is a common culture, uh, a common literature, a common way of conceiving different aspects. And I think the goal was very interesting in this European cultural um, community, um, he defended this point of view. And in fact, he refused, he simply refused the federalism. It was um, the position of de Gaulle. He didn't want the European integration in a sense of the transfer of sovereignty to the European institutions.
Do other developments or inventions of the Luxembourg Compromise were Decalogue and Coreper. Can you explain what these weird words mean?
So this Decalogue is based on comparison with the Decalogue in the Ancient Testament with 10 main points regarding different aspect and has a new way of conceiving the new phases for the European community after the empty share crisis, because as we can conceive, France was very cautious on the evolution of the future of Europe, and France um, uh, kept and obtained different possibility of uh, to how to say, to to conform and to have a um, heavy weight on the new conception of the European life of the institution in Europe.
Because one of the reasons why this was created, it was the fact that the European Commission sometimes announced its new policies before it was discussed with the member states. So the member states would be the bad guys who would be against the proposal.
Mhm.
So they even tried to pre-screen everything what the European Commission was about to propose to the Council.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Um, and in fact, the main point regarding the what we France got success to get, it was the change of the decision making regarding the unanimity. Unanimity became the normal procedure of deliberation, really, and national delegation led this way of conceiving slowly to a real veto power for different questions. So, and it was very interesting to conceive this compromise as a break of the evolution of the European functioning, really.
Another new body which was created was the name of it, and it's still in place today, is COREPER. What this abbreviation stands for, and what was the body, or what is the body actually? What was
So,
the idea behind it?
okay, so le COREPER in French, Comité des représentants permanents, Committee of Permanent Representatives in the European Union, was created in order to prepare the agenda of the Council of the European Union, and it was composed of head of deputy of head of mission from the EU member states in Brussels. So it was a very important um, very important institution. That's
So
true.
basically, the council actually moved to Brussels because originally the ministers came to Brussels only for the meetings,
Yes,
and now there are permanent representatives who are in touch with the commission and can make agreements in absentia of their ministers.
yes, that's true. Right, it's an evolution, important evolution. That's true. So the interesting aspect of this Coreper is now the fact that one of the most important role, um, except the preparation of the agenda, was to to be a kind of coordinator of some 200 or 250 committees. And so it's very interesting to see the development of
So
this.
this is actually the moment when the European integration became well known for its hundreds and thousands of committees.
Yes, 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 that's true. Um, so
So the French are in to be blamed.
that's exactly right. That's, exactly, that's true. So it's very, very interesting. As well, the main problem of, I think maybe the risk of the multiplication of institutions could very a break for the efficiency of the decisions making, because we have a long process, and each institution has its role to do and to respect. So it could be very, very sometimes, because there are so many different European policies to manage too. So it could be very, very difficult. That's the reason why there is too many committees now within the COREPA, in order to share and to divide it into the fields of different um, different fields of policies. For instance, employment, social policy, or other environment, for instance. So it's very, very important preparation of the work.
So if we sum up, what was basically the outcome of the empty chair crisis? There were some new rules which were created in order to strengthen the power of the member states to steer the European integration.
Yeah, yeah.
And was it in good or for bad for European integration? Because we are
Um,
also facing sometimes the term Eurosclerosis. So
mm. Yeah, I think it's the main result of the crisis is to reinforce the power of the countries and to reinforce the part of the intergovernmental functioning of the European institutions, with a real heavy weight of the governments, and it was a real we said in French, an Europe Gaulian, that is to say, in Europe under the control of the thought of de Gaulle, and it got success regarding the really this point, and um, the main consequence is to really to break the um, um, evolution of the European construction. As you know, we have to wait the change of power in France in 1969 with the, the the arrival of President Georges Pompidou for a new change, a new phases for the European integration, with the integration of Ireland and England in 1972. Uh, um, de Gaulle would never accept the candidacy of um, British Islands in England or Ireland or Scotland, and Georges Pompidou accepted because it was conceived that the importance of the, the British, um, the role of the British government and the country in the European and the worldwide development of relationship between Europe and USA and other part of the world, because we have to keep in mind the existence of dominions and the Commonwealth.
Also, this era is, according to Herbert Gersh, is connected with creation of bureaucratical
Mm,
form of regulation
mm.
and slowing down the economical development. So, and the reason behind it is that every time when the member states were supposed to agree on something, they always agreed on a compromise where everything which was necessary to actually adopt the European economy was cut out because it was otherwise it would be vetoed by any of the member states.
Yes, but you think really that this empty share crisis had economic consequences with a slowdown of the economic evolution? Because, as I said, within 1958 and 1970, the community's gross national product increased by 70%. So it's a very huge, or maybe the economic consequences could be estimated during the 70s. But as you know, in 1973, intervened the first great oil crisis in the world, and with the increasing of the prices of the oil, so it maybe I, I don't know, I'm not sure that we can say maybe with 5 years, 6 years, or 10 years after, but um, there were um, other aspects intervene in order to slow down the economic evolution of the European construction of the members. Maybe, uh, as you know, intra-community trade increased sixfold, sixfold between 1958 and 1970. So maybe maybe the empty share um, crisis led to the slowdown of the construction, like the political construction, and maybe we can make a connection between the slowdown of the political construction and the economic effects, maybe. That's true. Maybe we can discuss on this point.
We're looking forward. Thank you very much. Our guest was Olivier Descamps, and I'm very happy that you spent time with us, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for having
Thank
you.
you very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Cink, 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 dostali jste se na konec epizody a moc děkujeme za to, že jste nás poslouchali až do konce.
Určitě nám dejte like, určitě nás odebírejte a budeme se na vás těšit při příštím díle.
A pokud se vám díl líbil, pošlete nám zpětnou vazbu, pošlete nám to na e-mail z evropy@perfeccione.cz, pošlete to svým známým, hoďte si to do storíčka na Instagramu, cokoliv, budeme za to moc rádi, ať se to dostane co k největšímu množství lidí, které by to mohlo zajímat.
Děkujeme, mějte se hezky.